would buy these, but like me.
Quick one before we get started. If you enjoy this podcast, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, give this a rating and a follow. It really does make a difference. This week's guest is the incredible Shakaila Forbes-Bell. She's a fashion psychologist, author, podcaster, speaker, and is also creating an incredible course in fashion psychology. We had an amazing chat about all of the gorgeous things in her wardrobe. Shakaila, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of Off the Hanger. I am very excited to talk to you because you have the most fascinating career as a fashion psychologist. And I have to say, I loved reading your book, Big Dress Energy. It was so fascinating.
Oh, thank you so much, Emma. I appreciate that.
And so have you always been into fashion? Obviously, fashion is a massive part of your life.
Yeah, I have literally always been into fashion. I think I was thinking about the questions, and like my earliest fashion memory is making new clothes for my dolls with my mom and her teaching me how to sew. And I realized, like, I went back to where my mother's from, which is Trinidad, this year for a few weeks. It was so nice, and I got to speak to some people like in the fashion space, and I realized that sewing and like being very hands-on and like knowing materials and like knowing patterns, it's very much part of my culture, like in the Caribbean. And I think that's why it's been something that's been so ingrained with me from such a young age. But then I used to also love like watching fashion TV, which doesn't exist anymore, like all of these other runway shows. And I used to buy magazines all the time, and I used to just always be very invested in fashion. And yeah, it did start from childhood, I can definitely say that.
A lifelong passion. I love it. What would you say is the oldest piece that you've got in your wardrobe? Do you tend to keep hold of things?
I definitely have a lot of older pieces. I think I love hand-me-downs as well. So from my family, like this coat, this one. So this is my mom's, and I'm pretty sure it's from the 90s. She can't really remember, but like, yeah, I don't know. Jean Basic. I don't know where this is from. It's all hanging off, but yeah, this was hers from ages ago, and I love it. And I get lots of compliments from about it, and I love that it has a story as well, and it's something that's been passed down. And I hope maybe one day I can pass it down as well to my niece. And I also have this set from ASOS. I got this in like, oh my god, I want to say 2015. And I love this because I got this when I had just started my master's course in fashion psychology. And I was like, right, I'm going to be like a cool fashion student. And cool fashion students wear like pinstripes and like paper bag waist trousers. And it's so cool. And I loved it because I fixed it as well myself. So it was too baggy on the top, but it was the last one. So I did this. If you look at it closely, it's so bad, but I did this like stitch on it to make the shoulders fit better. But it looks good, like on the top. No one can see that, and it just fits so much better. And then it reminds me of this psychological principle called the endowment theory, which essentially says that we place more value on things that we have more ownership over them, and we have more ownership over things that we customize and we put our personal touches on them. So it makes sense why I wear that set so often, even though it's like 8 years old. And I've tweaked it and done things to make it fit me as my body changes. But I'm very much in favor of having those pieces that remind you of like the good times and good memories. Because I feel like nostalgia is literally weaved into every piece of fabric from clothes that we own, and it's important to relive those memories and think of your clothes as a memory box and enjoy the different stages of your life as you evolve.
That's incredible. I also love the concept that we dress for the part. So you said that obviously you were going to be this very cool fashion student, and I think it's something that a lot of us do without knowing. We kind of, when we're looking at our outfit for the day, we think, right, what am I going to be doing and what do I need to project? And so we dress for the part of how we think it should be seen.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think even the saying wearing different hats is a comment on how we use clothes to dress for different parts of ourselves. And we have these competing and overlapping identities. Like one day like you can be Emma the businesswoman, and the other day you could be like Emma like the sexy woman. And I like that we have clothes that allow us to embrace these different elements of ourselves and bring it out. Like we're not monotonous, we're not like that's why I hate the idea of a signature style, because I think that speaks to like cartoon characters who have a very prescribed way of behaving and they're expected to act in a certain way every episode, and that's not humanity and that's not who we are. So we should have clothes that allow us to explore the multifaceted nature of ourselves and our identities.
I adore that. I could not agree more. I am such a big advocate for people dressing for who they are that day in that moment, and that tomorrow they might be somebody completely different, and that's okay. You don't have to be that perfect style. It is my biggest pet peeve fashion question when people go, what would you say? How would you describe your style? Like, different every day, depending on who I feel like I am that day.
Exactly. It's so different. Like today, I'm like giving like schoolgirl chic, and then like yesterday, I was like in a hoodie and a blazer, like giving like I don't know Mark Zuckerberg realness. Like it's just different. It depends on how I wake up, and I like that I can be a different person or be a different, not really different person. I guess different sides of me can come out. And I think people don't realize how much control that gives you. It gives you a sense of like power and control, that you can decide how you want to be, what you want to step into the world as, and what messages you want to signal. And it gives you, yeah, that sense of control over the narrative of like your day and the impressions that people are going to have on you.
What would you say is the piece in your wardrobe that gets the most compliments?
Yes, I think it's gonna be this pink knitted set with green trims from Hanifa. So I wore this when I did my first stint on This Morning. And I got a ton of compliments behind the scenes. Like people were literally like chasing me down to ask me where I got this from. Oh, sorry, this is from Fumi the Label. Sorry, I think I said Hanifa. Yeah, this is from Fumi the Label. Beautiful black designer. And I loved it. It just like cinched me in like where I wanted it to. And I love pink. I've always loved pink from since I was a child. I just think it's such an expressive and beautiful color. And yeah, it just made me so happy.
And I love the color contrast as well. That kind of color clash is just perfect.
Exactly. And it matched my book, which I thought was so cool. The blue, the pink and green was like my book colors. So I just thought it's perfect to wear to promote it. So yeah, I like that it tied in.
Now, are you somebody who spends quite a lot of money on clothes? What would you say is the most expensive piece that you have?
I definitely don't spend a lot. I like to really shop around. So I hardly would just like buy something just as I saw it. I would make sure that I put it on like my Pinterest board, or I'd ruminate it for over a bit, or I'll shop around to see if there's a better price. And I love Honey. I do the discounts. Quidgo, I get the cashbacks. Like I'm very like I'm very frugal when it comes to clothes. And I think about cost per wear as well. So like, okay, if I'm buying this, for example, like this, like I said, the set from Fumi the Label was very expensive. It was a couple hundred, but I've worn it so many times. So like the cost per wear is like really low now. So I always think about that, like how much use am I going to get out of it? I think the most expensive, it's probably this, maybe, yeah, this purple Hanifa dress. I think this was around like expensive, maybe like 250, and then shipping as well. Oh, that took a bath on shipping. But again, like I love this. Again, I wore this on a TV stint and I've worn it since. I literally just wore this a couple of weeks ago to a speaking event, and the company's logo was purple, and they were like, oh, you're on brand, and they love that. So I like that. But you can tell like it's worth the money. The quality is so unreal. Like I compare it to the cheaper things I've had in my wardrobe when I was a bit younger, and you can just tell it's completely worth the price. But I think that's the most I would feel comfortable going on a piece of clothing. But I shop a lot of times secondhand now, and I haggle on those apps. I'm like, please, even if it's like £1 off, I'm like, make it cheaper. So I've gotten quite a few nice pieces at a much more discounted rate.
I love that. So I am also a big I love to shop around. I'm a fellow Quidco lover, like Top Cashback. We are my home screen on the browser, because then it just reminds me every time I log in, can I get this through Top Cashback and get some money back off this?
Yeah. I was like buying some stuff on Karen Millen that was already on massively reduced, but it was still like a couple of hundred. I was like, oh my God. So I went to Honey, and the discount, I got like 20% off of the reduced items. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. So yeah, please, I don't know why people don't use it. It's just easy. Like it's you can plug it in, like you said, in your browser and save some money.
Just there. It's just there. And I also
Yeah.
think it's really interesting that actually it's twofold with the more expensive pieces we buy. I think, firstly, obviously, the quality of them is way better than any sort of cheaper fashion high street pieces. But I think it's also that we wear them and look after them in a different way. I know with pieces that I've got, if it's something that has been cheaper or has been, you know, from a fast fashion brand, I am less likely to take care of it in the same way as I would that is a designer piece, even if I've still bought it for a relatively cheap price because I've got it on Vinted or whatever. It's just the way I look after them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm really trying to push the idea of putting value into every piece of clothing that you own, no matter the cost. Because I know we have that shift in preference, and we will take better care. We'll look at the label on it before we just throw it in the washing machine. Whereas we might do that for something cheaper and then ruin it and then end up spending more on something. And I really want to change that perspective and think everything you own does have value, because it's a decision that you made, and it's something that's going to be part of you and represent you. So I'm hoping that we start to place that value on all things that we own, not just the expensive like things that we only wear once in a while.
That would be great. That would be great if we can all do that. What's the newest piece that's in your wardrobe?
I did get a piece on loan actually from Wolf and Badger. That's pretty new. And it is a pattern dress from Anna Antal, and it's so beautiful. It's like this kind of almost like African Aztec-y tribal printed gown, and I wore it to a gala dinner in Venice, and it was so nice. I love wearing like pops of color. It was like black with like lots of different pops of color, and I wore it with green heels. And I think that's just me personified. I like wearing conversation starting pieces because I can be introverted and shy and a bit in my head at times, but I love when people come up to me and, oh, I love your this, and I think that's great because then that gives me an entry in. I can say, okay, yes, like I love you, thanks for speaking to me, and then the conversation starts from there. So I like that my clothes do that. I feel like they're working from me in that sense. Those bright, colorful, bold pieces, they're great.
I think that's really fascinating. There's quite a few guests that I've had on Off the Hanger who say the same thing, and it's something that I didn't realise I did because I'm the same. I'm quite an introvert. Until somebody talks to me, I won't be this conversation starter. I always just think, oh no, they don't want to talk to me, or I'm in my head about it. Whereas if I'm wearing something and somebody comes over and says something, then I will happily talk for England to somebody.
Exactly,
but it's that initial approach that I can't do, which I think it's so good that our clothes can do that for us.
Yeah, precisely. I'm literally the same way. I find it hard to walk up to people, but yeah, once you're in my sphere, then yeah, we'll get on like a house on fire. And yeah, my clothes are my secret weapon.
Are you quite sentimental about the pieces in your wardrobe? Do you have something that's your most sentimental piece?
Yes, I definitely am, especially when it comes to things that my sister owns. So I talk about this in my book that my sister sadly passed away when she was 32, so it's still coming up to 6 years now. And all of her clothes, like we still have all of them, and they're still kind of packed up in her room, as it were, but maybe a bit more condensed now. And I have taken some of them, and I like to wear them, or I just like to look at them really, and just it reminds me of her, and it's a bit more tangible, I think, than looking at pictures, because it just feels more active, like, oh, I'm borrowing something from her. Like it just keeps her alive a bit more. It's like reminding myself of an activity that we used to do and a passion that we used to share, which was fashion, style and beauty and hair. So those pieces are really sentimental for me, and I would love to keep them in like in really good condition for her daughter when she comes of age, so she can wear them. She already likes to wear certain things like her scarf and like her perfume. My nephew even wore one of her hoodies not too long ago. Completely drowned him, but he liked the idea that it was something of his mum's, and that we can have that moment to keep her memory alive, and to, because it's hard. I think anybody who's lost someone would say that it's hard to just outright talk about your grief, but like talking about the clothes that they wear is like an indirect way of expressing your love for that person that's no longer with you, and keeping their memory alive.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I love that. I think you're so right. It is so much more tangible than a photograph, because yes, in the picture you can see them and you can see their face, but I think photographs, as much as they are a representation of a person, I don't think it's the same as how your memory remembers that person, because in the photograph you're only seeing that 2D image, whereas when you remember them you have that kind of 3D mental image of them from every angle, and the clothing that they wore was so important. It smells of them, it feels like them, it's that very tactile thing.
Yeah, exactly. I can like see her in the clothes when I pull them like from my wardrobe on the hanger, and that's special for me.
What would you say is the piece in your wardrobe that most sums you up?
Oh, my sums me up. I think it's going to be another Hanifa dress. I just really like Hanifa when I found out about her, because I feel like she's like luxury in a way that is accessible. And this is a dress that I wore for like the cover of, well, for my book run as well, when I needed press shots. And I just love it. Like you can see, it's super colorful, very form fitting. I feel like when I wear clothes that hug my body, it's like a celebration of it, and I'm celebrating my curves. And I think growing up, like many young women, I felt like, oh, I needed to be stick thin like the models. Like the models don't have bum and thighs and hips and and breasts. Like, oh, why do I have that? But I've really like done so much work in like self-love, and started to embrace my body for what it is. And like now I love to showcase it in ways that I think is still quite fashionable. And I just love it. It's just literally covered from head to toe, but it hugs my body in all the right places, and it's an explosion of color, and it's a black designer, so it just really speaks to every part of me.
It really encompasses all parts of you. That's brilliant. Now, are you somebody who ever has a wardrobe malfunction or a fashion faux pas? Basically, would you like to join my disaster club?
Yes, I do. So I like form fitted clothing, and I've been blessed, I'd say, with like super large breasts. I recently got resized, and I found that I was a G cup, which is insane to me. But hey, this is where we are. And I've had many moments where they decided to, grace the world with their presence, because I decided that I didn't need a really fitted bra. I could just go low with the cleavage, and boob tape will save me, and boob tape can only do so much. I think I put too much pressure on my boob tape to help me out. And yeah, I think that's happened more than once or twice. So now when sometimes I put my friends on like nipple watch it, so they can like be on guard if I'm having a bit of a slip. But I try to be a bit more reserved, or a bit more conscientious these days when it comes to that. And I'm sure many people can identify. A lot of clothes that are made are not considered with big chested women in mind. It's very frustrating, especially like corseted like tops with like bras built in. I don't know why they don't make them in different sizes. It's just so frustrating.
I feel that completely. I am at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and they are not thought out for particularly small chests either. I think they go for this idea that everybody is like a 34C. And if you're
Yeah,
a
I was going to say
34C,
that. They think C, like everyone is just a C, and they just sit up here, and it's just great. And it's just like, no, the average woman is not that. And it's just, yeah, it's so annoying. But I make sure that I don't try to squeeze myself into those clothes or those tops anymore. I've just like given up. I'll just try something else that makes me feel better.
exactly. It's about wearing the things that work for your body shape,
Yeah.
regardless of what that is. And I think it's really important to always just be in things that make you feel great and make you feel comfortable, because I think that is the biggest fashion faux pas of all, is that wearing things that you're really uncomfortable in for the sake of like don't get me wrong, I am still going to squeeze my feet into Louboutins, and they are really painful and uncomfortable, but I like the way that they look, and that's my personal choice. But in terms of like being trend led and going, oh, but this is really in fashion and I'm going to squeeze myself into this, or I'm going to wear this and it's not going to look great on me, but I'm still going to do it because it's in fashion. That's my big like fashion faux pas no. I'm like, wear
Yeah,
what
I
you like,
agree.
but
And there's psychology to that as well. Like I think studies found that when people put something on and it doesn't fit them, they blame themselves. They don't blame the clothes. And I think that's where all of the issues lie. People think that it's something wrong with them. And when we have clothing options that are so limited and restricted, we subconsciously tell ourselves that, oh, okay, it must be something wrong with me. Like I'm not fitting into this mold that like the industry has deemed to be correct and perfect. And there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. And people need to realize that, yeah, the clothes should work for them and not the other way around.
Exactly. And that actually there is such a diverse range of styles out there, and I think brands are getting more conscious of doing a much wider range of sizing, that there are things out there we shouldn't be dictated to by the industry. We should try and, live our best selves.
Yes, I agree.
Now, speaking of Louboutins, are you a shoe fan? Do you have a favourite pair of shoes?
Yes, I have a favourite pair of shoes. They don't get lots of wear out of them. I'm planning to wear them soon. But I love these knee-high gold boots.
Oh my God, I love those.
Who would buy these but like me? Like that's just, I got them on ASOS and I just saw them and I said yes. And I don't know, I had a feeling of what I could wear this with this week, and I hope it works out and I hope people don't look at me like what the hell, but I just feel like it's so risky and it's just such a show-stopping like piece. And I don't know, I put them on and I was just dressing up. I dress up a lot. I was just dressing up in my bedroom the other day and I was like feeling myself and I loved it. It just is so empowering. And heels that provide that a lot of height, it embodies you with that sense of power. We associate height with power, so I love that, especially when you're having maybe a tough time or feeling a bit blue. Like just walk around in some heels for a bit. And I've experienced that as well because I tried to embrace more of my hobbies this year and I've joined a heels dance class. And it's just 1 hour, you do some choreography, you're in heels, and you just feel like Beyonce. You just feel so powerful afterwards. And that feeling carries with you like throughout the rest of the week. And that's why I love it. But I try to place comfort first. So I'd often carry my flats, my trainers in my bag with me whenever I'm wearing something like that. But yeah, I love a good pair of show-stopping heels.
I adore those. I have a very similar pair, similar, exactly the same shape, but they're in like a black, sparkly kind of tone. So I am right here with you on those. And also, that dance class sounds epic.
It is. I recommend it to anybody. Anybody, honestly, it's so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Now, is there a piece that you've been lusting after? What is the dream item that you don't already yet own that you'd love to have?
Yes, I have been looking at coats lately. I'm trying to be good and like budget for the rest of the year, but there's a few coats on the Frankie shop that I've just been like, oh, I want you. I think there's some like really like oversized white ones that I'm obsessed with. But on the other hand, I know myself. I'm messy. I'm the messiest person ever. My friends know this. They know I'm clumsy. They don't even borrow me their things anymore because I know I'm just gonna get something like makeup on it or drop it in the bath or something ridiculous. So I have to be realistic with myself, and I don't think a white coat is realistically going to be in my future. But yeah, I love a bold coat. I have a bright blue coat, bright orange coat. So I might add like a pink or a red to my collection soon. But I've been looking at the Frankie shop and been looking on Depop as well to seeing some dupes.
The statement coat, it is a must have because then you can just wear something super simple underneath and your coat does all the hard work for you.
Yeah, precisely. I'm trying to look more into like my coat outerwear and accessories. I think I've been neglecting them a bit and just being a bit boring. But yeah, like you said, you can just wear anything simple underneath and let your trainers, your hats, and your coat do all the work.
Do you have a piece of fashion advice that you would have given to your younger self?
Yes, I think it would be make sure that you are not just overdoing the statement pieces and you actually have things to wear with the statement pieces. So there was a time where I was really into fashion. I was learning more about fashion psychology and I wanted my clothes to just be as expressive and like bold as I was, and I was buying loads of those pieces. Then I realized I didn't have like things to pair them with, so it was hard to wear them on a day to day basis. So those kind of like the black trousers and like the white shirt and like those staple pieces. So I always make sure that there's them balance, because I'm balanced as well. Like, I'm not always one way. So I think younger me, I wish I invested a bit more in those staple pieces, but I'm doing that now.
That sounds like great advice. Yeah, having a foundation wardrobe to then build on top of is super important. And I think your foundation pieces, often they are referred to as like basics and things. I think they should never be basic. I think they're the pieces you should really invest into, because they're going to be your workhorse pieces that you wear over and over and over.
Yeah, exactly. I like those pieces to have like an interesting detail as well, or to be like an interesting shape too. Which I'm realizing now. I think when I used to buy the staple pieces, I just get them very boring and generic, and then I realize like, no, that's not. They don't have to be like that. Do you know what I mean? They can be, like it can be a black trousers, but it can be like ripped or like cargo or like oversized, or I can get it tailored. Like, there's different things you can do with those staple pieces to make them more you. You don't have to be so prescriptive. I hate when people are prescriptive with their style and their wardrobe.
That is incredible advice. Well, it has been absolutely amazing chatting with you today. I have loved it. And people should definitely find your book, Big Dress Energy, and read it. It's full of amazing advice. It's all about fashion psychology. But primarily, it's not dry. Sometimes when you hear the words, it's a book about psychology, you think, oh, that's going to be a bit of a dry read. But it's not. It's so much fun.
Thank you. I wanted it to be fun. Yeah, a lot of the papers I was reading are putting me to sleep, so I was like, no, I need to make sure I'm putting some of my humor in there. So if you like Cardi B references and Real Housewives references and sports references, then yeah, definitely it's gonna be one that you'll enjoy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, or give this a rating and a follow.